welcome back to Whitehall. I came over here yesterday, in fact the day before yesterday, because I need to continue with the cockpit enclosure. As you can see, it's absolutely freezing. We spent yesterday doing a little bit of welding and we ran out of gas. So the first thing we've got to do today is go and buy some more argon, because we're going to be doing a load of TIG welding. We need to finish welding up all of the legs and the structure itself. We need to weld on a whole load of tabs to hold the roof onto the stainless steel frame, and also a load of tabs to hold the windscreen into the frame. And then I've brought a little trailer with me that we can modify to fit the legs so that we can bolt the whole thing to the trailer to tow it all the way back to Wales. Yeah, so we've got new gas bottle connected up. And as I say, the plan today is to finish welding up all of the little the legs and the standoffs and all the welding that wasn't finished to this framework, and to weld up all of the tabs that we need. We did some of it yesterday, as I say, and ran out of gas. But there's a whole load more. Let me show you the ones that I'm talking about, where we bolt the roof down onto this framework. So there's one in this corner here, which has been welded here, but not there. One at the back here. One in this corner. Excuse me, Clyde. One there. One at the front, that's welded all the way along, so that's good. And one here, which has been tacked, but not finished. And then there's a lot of polishing, so we're taking the welds from looking like that to looking like that, for which we've got several polishing tools that we can use to achieve that result. Although the polishing I can continue when I get the frame back to Wales anyway. The priority is get this structurally sort of set up, get the roof bolted down, get it mounted on the trailer and get it back to Wales. This thing here is an attachment for the grinder, and it's basically a belt sander, and it's with a sprung tensioner wheel, so we can use it to polish the tube around the welds.
We're really ramping things up now in preparation for the spring and our plans to head off sailing, so that's why we've released an extra episode this week, as the work on both Ocean Melody and Steel Melody is going up a gear. We might not do an extra episode every week, but make sure to keep your eyes open for the times that we do.
So we're just finishing off this last little bit of welding. There's nothing really left to do. We're just running over welds to tidy them up. But I think what we're going to do first, we're going to modify our little dinghy trailer to take this back to Wales, and then once it's on the trailer we can do the tabs of the windscreen, because it'll actually be easier to move around anyway. That'll do. I've got Spanish, do we want mine out? There we go. Nut and washer there. So now, before we bolt the top on, I think we should cut and weld these tabs for the windscreens. Yeah. Do you reckon? Because we've got the welder here, we've got the steel here. And then it's all done. I can drill the holes for the windscreen when I get home, because I'm not going to mount the windscreens here. We've got loads of these, and we now need to weld them all on into the corners and halfway along each span of the windscreen, so that we can eventually mount windscreens. We're just discussing whether or not to have, because obviously we've got to weld these on to support the plexiglass, the polycarbonate, but these aren't right angles, so we can't tuck these into the corners. And we could spend ages cutting them into the corners, but I don't think that looks good anyway. I think we need to just have them 1, 2, 3, along the top and 1, 2, 3 along the bottom, and see how we go, and if we need more, we can add more.
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon about there. Right, so we're all lashed onto the trailer. We've got the ratchet straps all tight. The next job, we finished all these tabs yesterday, as you saw, and the next job is to get the lid on bolted down and then wrapped up with the solar panels, ready to tow back to Wales. It's actually full of snow, this thing, all the way along the bottom.
Right, ready when you are.
Yeah, okay. Probably worth getting a tape out and measuring the exact points, because this is the point of no return now of drilling the actual holes to bolt this thing down. Hey.
I was thinking, you want to put your timber gallows on, don't you?
I do, yeah, bolted to that and this.
Right.
So it'll be bolted to the two at the same time. What we're going to do with this is, when I get back, I'm going to over drill these holes with a hole saw, fill them with thickened epoxy, and then re-drill the holes. So just to get it home, we're going to use nuts, bolts and big washers, spreader plates, or as big as we can. But the final fitting will involve those holes drilled out, 40 mil or something, and then filled with thickened epoxy and re-drilled. It's quite nice under here. Sort of needs to be, because it's where we're going to be spending a lot of time.
Make sure you're happy with it before we drill.
Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, it's bob on. Yeah, this view here is going to be pretty much what we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at.
Hopefully with a bit less orange.
Yeah, a bit less of the orange straps, a bit more of a windscreen around the front. We're towing this back behind the car, and I'll be doing 45 mile an hour. And my logic is, if it falls apart on the way home at 45 miles an hour, then it was no good. So I'm going to do a Mythbusters thing and try and break it on the way home. These will all have dome head nuts on as well on the inside to make them nice and pretty. So that's all bolted down. There are more hard points to bolt this down. There's one in the middle at the back, and I can easily add more if I find that it's not, if I'm not happy with it. That's the beauty of TIG welding and steel. You can just add another tab, stick another bolt in. If anybody's wondering about the width of this, by the way, I can't remember the exact figure it was, but I've measured it and I've looked up the UK regulations for the width of vehicles, and it's 1 inch under the maximum allowable width without having signs and all that kind of stuff on it. So I am doing this legally, if anybody's questioning that. I think it was a good idea to use this stuff, because that's going nowhere. Job done. We can hook this up, I can get all my stuff together, clear up this rubbish that I've made at Andy's place, and get back to Wales. Well, that was an uneventful journey, came back with no problems whatsoever. So the cockpit enclosure and the roof and the solar panels are all back here ready for me to continue the painting and epoxying on top of them, epoxy paint, and making up the mounting brackets for the solar panel, get that fitted on the boat. The next thing I've got to do though now is continue with the cupboard doors and the ceiling slats that need to go back on Ocean Melody. The ceiling slats are all up against the wall. They've had a second coat of paint this morning. What I'm going to be doing today is just painting the white on the cupboard doors. Now, for those of you who are kind of, oh, don't do that, don't paint white on top of your lovely teak. What we've done, I don't know if I explained this before, but I've not sanded all the varnish off. I've keyed it. And the reason I've keyed it is because I can now paint white onto this section. I need to give them a clean. We're going to keep the borders in varnish. So we're going to be white and varnish. If we hate it, all we need to do is sand the white off. And the problem only arises when you paint white onto wood, when you paint it onto bare wood. And if you paint it onto bare wood, it soaks into the grain and it's an absolute nightmare where you just can't get it back out again. But because the old varnish is acting like a primer, like a barrier, like a sealer coat, it won't soak into the original wood. So if we hate it, we can strip it off. I don't think we will though. I think it's going to look really nice. Okay, so the ceiling slats are painted and drying and ready to go back up. The drawer fronts, which I've just painted, are actually for the crawl through in the aft cabin. The ones for the saloon, as you can see, are still here, so I'm going to do those on the boat. Now, as I say, I'm not removing the varnish, I'm just keying it to freshen it up. And part of the reason is there's an awful lot of sort of old historic water damage to some of these veneers, which just looks a bit ugly. So we could go to the extent of stripping back all of the varnish, right back to the bare wood, treating the wood, getting rid of all of that water damage, the water spots and that kind of thing. That would be an extensive job and not something that we want to embark on at this point just for cosmetic value. So I'm going to start by sanding, which I gather somebody once said is glorious, glorious. Where have I heard that? Right, that's the keying process done. All I'm focusing on today are these two cupboards. And I'm not focusing on the trim. I've done a little bit, but I'm focusing on the flat areas. All the trim around the edges are going to be varnished with some lovely epiphanes that I've bought. But that will happen after the painting, because of course I've got to mask off, paint, let that set, let that cure, and then mask off again to varnish. So I can come back to the varnishing on that, the sanding and varnishing on those bits next time. So next job is quick wipe down with some panel wipe and some dry rags. Masking is all done. Quick panel wipe and then I'm going to paint.
just off to help Andy move the cockpit enclosure in. But look, it's snowing. It's snowing. Well, it's not snowing, it's snowed. And it's freezing. But I love the snow. I'm very excited. I'm going to get here and he's already done it probably.
What do you think of the snow, Ollie?
Just showing everyone the snow.
Yes.
It's really exciting to have this back here. Can't wait to get it on the boat.
So now the cockpit enclosure is all back at the workshop. We can carry on with the epoxying, filling the, filling those bolt holes and making the mounts for the solar panels. But at the moment, as you may be able to tell, it's too cold for epoxying. Epoxying really needs to be done in warm temperatures, at least above 10 degrees C. And at the moment, the marina is literally frozen over. Look at that. That is ice on the marina. So what I'm going to do now is screw the ceiling slats back up, which I've brought here to make space in the workshop, because believe it or not, there is method in the madness to my workflow. I've been doing the woodwork in the workshop whilst the fiberglassing and stainless work was at Andy's. Now that I've finished, or mostly finished, the woodworking in the workshop, and I can now clear that stuff out to make space to work on, finish off the fiberglass roof and the solar panel mounts and all that kind of stuff. So whilst my workflow may seem crazy to some of you, there is kind of some degree of planning involved with it.
Crosshead screws, and yes, of course, they're stainless. Well, believe it or not, the ceiling is all up, the deck head is all up. There's one or two pieces that don't fit absolutely perfectly, which is really annoying. So I'm going to have to take them down, trim them with the router and put them back up, which will mean obviously repainting those slats. But that's absolutely fine. The painting on the cupboards, I've done another coat, probably going to need several more, and the fronts of the seats as well. Loads of work done, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Thanks to our patrons who are on the screen up here. Thanks to you guys for your likes and your comments, and for following us and for sticking with our silly little adventure. And I promise we'll be off very soon. Oh, and by the way, next week we're back on Still Melody, because of course, as some of you, many of you pointed out, there's loads left to do on Still Melody before we can launch stroke sell her. So there's a bit of news coming up there on Still Melody. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week, guys. Bye.